Get ready and start your engines for our 5th annual Aviation Month on Savvy Business Radio. Our official sponsor is Winty Graphic Design, your one-stop shop for all your graphic needs, from business cards, logos, book covers, and banners. Contact Winty today in order to find out how your custom design can become a reality at 718-841-7441. Our 5th annual Aviation Month logo was done by Winty.
Our first guest is Hartzell Propeller, the global leader in advanced aircraft propeller design, manufacturing, and technology. Aviation is in their DNA. Visit hartzellprop.com. Jan Blonk, our second guest, is a flight school admissions officer at Daytona's Phoenix East Aviation. Recently, Jan started his business as a Christian book publisher, authoring several titles, including his recent Christmas book, Joy to the World. Visit devotionalwriter.com. And our final guest is David Windmiller, an aerobatic champion and airshow pilot. At age 14, David was bitten by the proverbial flying bug when he began flight training at a small airport on Long Island. Learn more about David's wing rocking career at windmiller.com.
Hi, JJ. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio for our 5th annual Aviation Month. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous, and I'm super, super excited to have you joining us as a representative for Hartzell Propeller. Actually, that propeller's on the aircraft I was training in, my Piper Warrior. You are the leading propeller company in the world, and you got your start way back when aviation was just a little baby, and it's so fascinating. Tell us a little bit about how Hartzell came to creating their wonderful company.
Right. Well, our history goes back into the 1800s, actually, and as the Hartzell family started a business here in Piqua, Ohio, actually beginning to sell lightning rods back in the 1860s. And the family business grew into some other product lines. And then in 1917, at the urging of Robert Hartzell's friend Orville Wright, Hartzell Propeller started to make propellers out of walnut. Right here in Piqua, Ohio. And so that was really the beginnings in 1917 of Hartzell Propeller as a propeller company and entering the aviation industry in 1917. And of course, we've grown since then. We've enhanced our product line to include metal bladed propellers as well as carbon fiber structural composite propellers about 35 years ago. And we're continuing to invest in innovation today and bring new technology and better performing products to market every year.
Yeah, and I see that you've also combined with another number of other companies to really manufacture and be a lead in a number of different areas in aviation.
Well, yes, we have mostly specialized in the propeller world, but we've also developed a line of governors for engines, as well as our own spinner business here to complement the propellers. And we have a line of de-ice products as well. But really, our partnership starts at the aircraft manufacturer level, very far upstream with their engineering departments, so that we can combine our engineering folks with the design folks at the aircraft manufacturer and really make sure that we're designing specifically for the mission profile of our customers' aircraft. So we invest very far upstream to make sure that we're partnering the right technology with the airplane to make sure that we're delivering best in the world performance for our customers.
Yes, and what I love about your founding principles is built on honor, which I love, because what I find missing in a lot of businesses across the globe is now we're kind of, especially in the United States, a throwaway society, which is, okay, I can just get rid of these shoes or this product and buy a new one in 90 days. But what's awesome is you make your products to last, you make them to be top of the notch, and everything's made with the utmost quality.
Yeah, that's really important to us because, a propeller is something that can be overhauled every 5 or 6 years and restored to service. And we take that very seriously. We have product in the market that has thousands and thousands of flight hours and has gone through 3, 4, 5 overhaul cycles. And in some cases, the technology in the market on aircraft goes all the way back to the 50s and 60s. And we still support that with our aftermarket business, with our parts network and our inventory. And so for us, we want to make sure that we keep aircraft in the air and keep propellers in good working order, not just for the launch of the airplane, but well into the future, and actually going way back into our product line as well.
Yes. A propeller staying attached to the airplane is something we really, really want.
Absolutely.
We don't want it flying off the airplane in any shape or form. Now, does Hartzell also, because I know you work with general aviation, because that's what I fly, but do you also go across the board with jet propulsion and also military aircraft?
We obviously specialize in propellers, so we're not doing any sort of jet engine work, but we do definitely partner with some military customers and some airframers who make military airplanes, notably the T6 Beechcraft product and the PC-21 from Pilatus in Switzerland. So we do absolutely do some military installations. We're big into the agricultural market as well with Air Tractor and Thrush. And then we branch down into the UAV market, both on the military and the commercial side with some customers. So we run the gamut of general aviation, but we also have our footprint in really anything from about 80 shaft horsepower up to 2,200 shaft horsepower.
Wow. So I'm guessing maybe you even got started during World War II, that, because most of the airplanes fighting during World War I, World War II were definitely propeller driven. So I'm guessing you guys had a big impact in really helping us during the wartime as well.
We did. We made a product line actually to support the World War II effort. We made metal blades for Hamilton Standard and for the Curtiss Aircraft Company, and those were under the Liberty Propeller branding at that time. And so we did some contract work, like I said, for Hamilton Standard and Curtiss, and certainly grew our footprint in the market during that time as well.
Wow, that's so cool. And I love that before the interview you informed me that one of your first clients was Orville, right? Correct.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Our propeller founder, Robert Hartzell, was friends with Orville Wright, who was obviously in the Dayton area, and we're here in Piqua, about 20 miles from Dayton. And he encouraged and urged Robert to look at the walnut stock that we have in the area that they were using for some of their other businesses through Hartzell Industries, and to use that walnut to make propellers. And that was how we got our start.
Wow. And for those of you who don't know, I'm pretty sure most people know Orville and, oh my gosh, now I forgot the other name.
Wilbur.
Yes. Hello.
Right. Yes.
At the airport we go to, one of the airports nearby in New Jersey, there's an actual cat on the property named Wilbur, after Wilbur Wright.
Nice.
But for those who don't know, Wilbur and Orville were the first two people who got powered flight started. If it wasn't for them, we would not be flying across the country and be able to do what we do today without them. And of course, we would not have Hartzell Propeller today making an exceptional product thanks to them.
Yeah, this was actually about 8 to 10 years after Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, when the Wright Flyer actually took off for the first time. And unfortunately, Wilbur had passed away by 1917, and then Orville was in the midst of starting the Dayton Wright Airplane Company, and that's where he partnered with Robert Hartzell to start the propeller business.
And I'm thinking, what I love that you mentioned earlier is that you guys have continue to innovate. And I think that's something important for all business owners listening in. This is a business show. And to stay in business for the long haul, not only to build something that is high quality, that stands the test of time, but that also is completely innovative, that as the world around you grows and changes, that you grow with it. And that's what's happened with your company, that you've seen as aircraft have grown, aviation has grown by leaps and bounds over the past over 100 years, and you've gone with it, now creating, as you said, composite propellers and metal propellers. You started with oak wood, I believe you said. And so that constant innovation, which is important for any company if you want to stay around for the long haul.
Absolutely. We pride ourselves on quite a few aviation firsts. Really importantly around innovation, we developed the first structural composite certified propeller in 1978 for the CASA 212, which is a commuter aircraft and freight hauler. And those propellers are actually still flying, some almost 40 years later. And so that was our first foray into structural composite, which at the time was obviously a new product line, not only for us, but for the entire industry. And then in terms of innovation and aviation first, we were also lucky enough to be asked to provide propellers for the Voyager flight, which will be celebrating its 30th anniversary here in December, which was the first circumnavigation of the globe without stopping for any refueling. And so it was a pretty cool story. We actually were contacted by Dick Rutan and his team about 2 weeks before the flight was scheduled to take off.
Wow.
And we put some propellers together for them and helped them complete that mission. We've also been on the front end of a couple of aircraft, the Grobe Egret, as well as the Boeing Condor, who set altitude records respectively for turboprop and piston aircraft back in the late 80s. And we continue to innovate today. So that's really been our lifeblood. It's really what Built on Honor is all about, is not just being satisfied with being good, but really reaching for how we become great, not only in the industry, but with our partners in our aircraft manufacturing relationships.
Wow. And that right there, taking that project, 2 weeks to build an aircraft, to build propellers for a big project like that to go around the world is huge. And that's what's interesting, JJ, that, for all businesses out there, there will be times where a project will come up or an opportunity that you have to be ready to step on and launch and be prepared to put your best foot forward and do that. And you guys were ready to come to the table and offer that and offer an exceptional product that allowed them to do what they had to do and go around the world safely.
Yeah, absolutely. I wasn't here when that project happened, but there's still quite a few folks who were a part of that have a great deal of pride in being able to help pull that off and make that happen. So that's really what we're all about. We're a small company. We're privately owned still today. And we really take this not just as a workplace, but as a extension of who we are as individuals and collectively as a company. So, back to the Built on Honor, it's not just something that we say as a business. It really means something to us personally. We're a company full of aviation enthusiasts and pilots. We've got about 25 active pilots in our company, which is about 10% of our workforce. And we have an employee flying club here at our airport, right a couple miles down the road from our main facility. And we also fly a couple of turboprops for business travel as well. So we're really well integrated into not just propeller world, but aviation and general aviation in general, and really take a lot of pride and have a lot of passion for what we do.
That is fabulous. And I know you told me beforehand that you're not a pilot yet, but I'm sure working at Hartzell has really changed your outlook. Has it changed and impacted your life in other ways, having this, this intense desire to come from honor and to have high quality? Has that affected all parts of your life as well?
I would say, yeah, we hold ourselves to a really high standard here, and certainly that carries through, not just to the work life, but to the balance of your life. And, not to be too cheesy, but yeah, I would say it has. And, just touching on the utilitarian aspect of general aviation, our ability to go on customer visits and to meet with who we need to meet with, in a pretty flexible way by flying our own aircraft, has really been, it continues to be a big advantage for us. So, general aviation, as a whole, is a little sector here of our global marketplace that is extremely important to small businesses like us. Mm-hmm. And certainly we take a lot of pride in helping do what we can to keep it strong.
That is totally awesome. And I love that because I've worked a lot of companies, and the few that I've stayed with that really had an impact on me were ones that weren't just about dollars and cents. At the end of the day, it was about serving the world and making it a better place, and whatever gifts they had to offer, whatever it is they did. And those were businesses I could actually go to work and be excited to go to work every day because I was doing something to make the world a better place. We all were. And so it's great that you guys are doing that. And, I'm so glad you were able to come out here and share with our audience a little bit about Hartzell and the wonderful work you're doing.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity. And as I said, founded in 1917, Christina, and so next year, 2017, will be our 100th anniversary. And it's a company that, as we say, is built on honor, but certainly innovation has been our lifeblood, and we're continuing to invest and continue to innovate, and really looking forward to celebrating our 100th year milestone and carry forward into the next 100. So, you'll see from us quite a bit of activity at our major shows and events like Oshkosh and Aero Friedrichshafen and NBAA in the fall of 2017, where we get a chance to celebrate not only as a company but with our customers and pilots and the market in general. So it'll be a fun year in 2017. We're really looking forward to it.
Yeah, so am I. I'm going to Oshkosh next year, so I'm looking forward to seeing you there, and hopefully maybe I'll get to meet you in person.
Sounds good. Sounds really good.
Yeah, but let the audience know where they can find out more about Hartzell, and maybe there are student pilots out there who want to know more about the propeller on their aircraft. Sure.
You can find us at hartzellprop.com as well as on Facebook and Twitter. For us, it's a great way to connect with the pilot community and really share what's going on here at Hartzell, as well as keep everyone in tune with what's going on in the market. So hartzellprop.com, and then also you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and certainly send us your photos, send us any questions you might have via those channels.
Fabulous. Well, I want to thank you again, JJ, for coming out here and sharing the wonderful gifts that you and Hartzell are all providing the world. And I thank you again for coming to Savvy Business Radio.
Great. Thank you, Christina. Cheers.
Savvy Business Radio, home to over 500,000 listeners per month, and runs in syndication on 8 AM/FM stations nationwide, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out in a bigger way, call 732-474-7375 or email Christina at savvybusinessradio.com.
Here's our interview with Jan Blonk. Hi, Jan. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for having me.
You betcha. I'm super excited to have you join us for our 5th annual Aviation Month here at Savvy Business Radio. And you, interestingly enough, you're not a pilot, but you do work as an admissions officer of Phoenix East Aviation. And you're starting to have a little bit of interest in aviation and such, but share with us how you came to working in the United States, working as a admissions office and an aviation school. How did that all come about for you?
Ever since I was about 11, I became very much American-minded, still the land of all possibilities, and so I was fortunate enough to get a work scholarship and pursue my graduate degree, and part of the work scholarship was working in as an admissions officer, and when I resigned there, I was able to continue in the field of sales and marketing, and was hired by Phoenix East Aviation to work as an admissions officer.
That is so cool. And we were talking before the interview how there's just so much out there with regards to aviation, and where you might not be in aviation, I find that people who come to this month, this segment that we have on every year, you don't even have to be a pilot to have some intrigue about it. There's a sense of freedom and excitement and adventure in the field, in the industry of aviation, that you don't really need to be a pilot to enjoy it and have excitement with it. But you also, now with being an American citizen, you are also starting your own company, a freelance copywriting service, as well as being a Christian publisher. How did that come about for you?
I have always loved books. Ever since I was young, my mother would read at my bedside, and part of my degree programs, you just have to do a lot of writing, and I just love writing. And I especially like the concept of what is known as a devotional, where you take a thought or a Bible verse and you kind of jump into it and try to see what it means and what it says. And so doing that has always been a strong passion of mine. And with respect to the copywriting, having been in sales and marketing for over 15 years now, and my love for writing and my background in the Christian market, it was just kind of the perfect combination. And it gives you a sense of freedom, kind of like a pilot. You know, having your own business is just something that really appeals to me, giving that freedom.
Well, was there anything for you, Jan, that was a little bit trepidatious as you got started in starting your new venture?
A little bit. I am a little bit passive by nature. So starting your own business and making sure that you understand taxes and setting up your business requires definitely some work and dedication and forcing myself to do certain things. So overall, it was a very good learning process that I believe also was a personal growth process for me. And I mentioned not so long ago that being from the Netherlands, where it's not as, the capitalistic mindset is not as strong there. So I don't think I would have ever pursued that were it not for being in the U.S. So it's kind of like an American dream come true for me.
Aw, that's super awesome. I'm glad to hear that. And you've recently also become a citizen of the United States of America. Congratulations.
Yeah, that was something special. It was in 2014, and the whole ceremony, I choked a little bit because it was very special.
Wow, it is fabulous. And now you have a family here, you have a beautiful wife, and I believe you said you had children as well?
Yes, I have 2 children, an 8-year-old daughter and an almost 5-year-old son.
Wow. And you mentioned something interesting, Jan, and I saw this in a recent documentary that really got me to look at the Netherlands and the whole Icelandic area in a different way, and that was watching a documentary on divorce. And, you know, here, when people go through divorce, it's just horrible. They go through this court system a lot of times, and it's, you know, money involved and lawyers and ick and all this stuff. But in the Netherlands and Denmark and stuff like that, the whole idea is that you separate equally, and there's no fighting, there's no going through courts, there's no idea of, oh, we're going to try to take money from the other party. It's a very civilized way to go about divorce in just like an adult way, and I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, fortunately, I'm not as familiar with it, and I've been, you know, gone for 15 years, but I do think those, it's more regulated, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. And so what I really liked that you mentioned also is that devotional, that taking a set idea or a Bible verse and really going more deeply into it. Has that always been the way you've kind of delved into the Bible and to understanding God's Word? I mean, how do you usually approach the Bible?
I do like that concept of just taking a verse and diving into it. I love to read, and I love to read large books, but I think in today's society, the instant society, people are just not geared toward thick books, and they don't want something, you know, like the 1-minute devotional concept where it's quick and easy. And so I try to provide substance in a concise and clear manner.
Yeah. And your latest book, or the one I saw latest, if you have more, let me know. The Pursuit of Purity is the pursuit of Jesus. Love it. Battling sexual temptation and sin, overcoming through God's Word and Spirit. That's your newest book, right?
Yes, that is actually not the latest anymore. I just published last week a Christmas one called Joy to the World, Christmas Throughout the Year. And it's a 25-day devotional that is meant for December 1st through December 25th. Just helping us prepare for the Christmas Day and the birth of Jesus celebration.
Yay. Has there been, in your experiences coming to the United States, working here, both in the college and then also at the aviation school and now doing what you're doing, that is kind of ties all of the lessons you've learned in being a Christian and studying the Bible. Has there been any aha moment that you've learned also in your experiences doing the work you've done here in both in aviation and in your publishing company?
Not that I can recall at the moment. More so that it's just easier to start than my growing up in the Netherlands. It's available. For example, my first book, I've now 4 published books, and my first one was traditionally published through a Christian publisher, and that was a big deal for me, because at that time, and this was in 2014, I still had the self-publishing stigma that, anybody can self-publish, but to be chosen by a traditional publisher and have your book published was a big deal. But after that, the idea of self-publishing, it's so easy. The royalties are definitely better, and you are in more control, and you have more freedom. And so for me, that stigma is gone, and it's so, it requires work, but it is very doable to self-publish through Kindle or Smash Words, etc.
It's great you mentioned that, because we've had quite a few authors who also told me they went through the same type of stigma when they were thinking of publishing, and went for years. One gal came on a couple of years ago and told me that she went to like 60 different major publishers around the world trying to get her book published. And I think we heard J.K. Rowling went to like 100 or whatever, and she kept getting turned down until she finally got picked up. That sometimes really, the gal who finally came on our show last year said, I'm going to do it myself. And she's been having great success with it. But the deal is you do have to do your own promotions and sales and distribution and stuff like that. You do have that freedom that you wouldn't have with a publisher. And here's something I didn't know, Jan, is that one author came on and she said, I was doing romance books and getting #1 bestseller. It wasn't a big publisher, but with royalties, and at the end of the day, I was getting a minute amount of the total revenue made on the book, and the publisher is taking home most of it. So I think that's one thing that people don't understand, that you will have to give up a lot as well if you go through the traditional route.
Yes, that is definitely true. I would say, without having all the statistics, but I think self-publishing, you have at least double the royalty than through a traditional.
Is there any advice you have for anyone, say they're an up-and-coming author who wants to get out there and they're considering self-publishing, that you would have as far as suggestions on getting started?
Obviously, you have to deliver a good product, so definitely focus on the quality of your writing, because if you write a book that is just not good, that will probably be the end of your career. So you want to deliver a quality product. And there are a lot of quote-unquote gurus out there that definitely can help you in the right way, and I would just suggest Google it and sign up for their emails, and along the way you just learn so much that you can do it.
Yeah. Are you going to also help inspiring Christian authors publish, or are you just going to publish your own books, or how do you plan to see your business go forward?
I put my whole publishing endeavor under my company, Christian Copywriting, and I did it for tax purposes, and I also do it for promotional reasons, because I publish now my books under Christian Copywriting, which is the name of my company. And so I hope to gain clients through that when they see the website link and the name. So it's kind of a dual endeavor. I have bought some domain names in the past that eventually I might use for teaching courses on writing or something like that. I bought a website domain called Writing That Delivers. But that's kind of in the future. It's not fully on the radar yet.
Yeah. And hearing that you came from a background in sales and marketing, this is fabulous. And how much has being in sales prior to open your business really helped?
It has definitely helped. Many times the complaint is that authors, they love writing, obviously, and that's the only thing they want to do, but they don't really want to do anything towards marketing.
Yeah.
And that's understandable. So I do feel blessed that I have that background and that I'm not a novice in what to do. But it still means hard work, a lot of work, and being very persistent, because people just don't buy your book just because you wrote it.
Even if it's phenomenal. Yeah, you do have to get it out there. Yeah. Would you suggest to anyone who's perhaps a writer or author and they're not very good at sales that they could hire someone else for that and get them to do what maybe you're not so good at?
I mean, that's definitely a possibility. Many times that does become quite expensive.
Yeah.
I have discovered and have been using Fiverr, Fiverr.com, and have used some of their services, and I've overall have been just greatly blessed by using some of the services on Fiverr.
Yeah, it's a great resource to know that you don't have to spend an arm and a leg. I've gotten some also great employees locally to help out for a day or two for, small things. So, and I didn't have to pay an arm and a leg through like Craigslist. So yeah, there are resources out there to help you if you look for them. And today more than ever with the online internet, there's also actually, I think overseas in Philippines company that helps you hook up with virtual assistants and stuff if you need help with getting some administrative work done for inexpensive rate and such. Well, this has been really great, you sharing this. Would you have any top advice for anyone who is on a day-to-day basis? They say they're Christian, but as you say, the world is going so fast, such a fast pace, that they're really not communing and communicating with God as much. What would be your advice for them getting in touch with God again?
That is a challenging question.
Yeah.
I mean, there are easy answers, and those answers are not always easy. But obviously, as in any relationship, you have to make time. And if you don't make time, whether it's with your spouse or your children, obviously that affects the relationship. So that's the easy answer, but it's not always easy to work it out practically.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you have to set priorities. And it's any relationship is hard work.
Yeah. But it's well worth it at the end of the day, to really put
That's for sure.
You betcha. Well, I want to thank you again, Jan, for coming to share your very valuable information and wisdom today on Savvy Business Radio.
You're very welcome, and I wouldn't be a true sales and marketing person if I didn't say that my website is devotionalwriter.com.
You betcha. We're going to put that on the show page as well. And I want everyone to please go out there, even if you've lost touch with your relationship with Jesus and God today, please go check out Jan's wonderful book, Battling Sexual Temptation and Sin. I know that's a big one for a lot of people out there. And there's sin in every shape and form in our lives that we might have difficulty overcoming. And I'm sure Jan's many devotional books that are coming out and have come out will help you through those temptations. So again, Jan, I want to thank you for coming to Savvy Business Radio.
You're very welcome, and it was my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Nassau Flyers, Long Island's leader in flight training and airplane rentals, is an authorized Husky aircraft dealer and Cirrus certified training center, producing safe, proficient pilots for over 35 years. Located in Farmingdale's Republic Airport, Nassau Flyers experienced certified flight instructors train pilots to be the best in the sky by equipping aviators with valuable aeronautical decision-making and airmanship in a well-maintained fleet of airplanes from new LSAs to new current generation Cirrus SR-20s and SR-22s. Visit flynfi.com.
Here's our interview with David Windmiller, airshow pilot. Hi, Dave. Thanks for coming to Savvy Central Radio today. How are you?
Very good, Christina. Pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you on. I loved your talk that you gave at the beginning of October at Republic Airport. You talked about some of your wonderful experiences as being a pilot and an aviator in the cockpit and some of your lessons you've learned. I'd love if you start by telling the audience a little bit about you and how you got into the world of aviation and aerobatics.
Sure. I started flying against everyone's knowledge and wish At a very young age, 14, I was living in Brooklyn, and I used to basically sneak out early on Saturday morning, combination of subway and Long Island Railroad and a taxi cab, small airport that used to be in Amityville called Zons, which is no longer there. And I used to put whatever money I pulled together from working for the week and use that for a flying lesson. Sometimes it was as short as 30 minutes. Sometimes it was closer to an hour. And then I sold it on my 16th birthday. I had to wait until I was 17 to get a license. It was pretty boring just flying around and started, I guess, as an outlaw exploring aerobatics. And by the time I had my license, I already had quite a bit of aerobatic experience. The aerobatics grew. Later on, in 1987, I started getting serious. I bought an aerobatic airplane. With that, I climbed the ladder into competition pretty quickly. I started winning local contests, and then I progressed into more and more complex airplanes, and then eventually wound up with a seat on the United States aerobatic team in 2000.
Very impressive. And I'm loving what you're saying there about getting ready to go out to the airport and taking the train, the bus, and the cab. I can totally relate. I live in Brooklyn, Bay Ridge, Brooklyn myself, and would come out with all my flight gear and take the train to Long Island, Republic Airport, and then take the cab. And I started out actually at Caldwell Airport and would get off there at the bus stop and walk a mile with my pillow and all my flight gear. So I'm sure a lot of people and folks out there who live in the cities who have to hike on over to the airport would be able to relate to you.
Yeah, it's great.
So, David, when you said you were getting into aerobatics before you even got your license, how would you go about that? Would you take it pretty high up in the air and just practice a bit and kind of, feel it out and learn bit by bit? I mean, how did that work out for you?
My first experience, I guess it's looking back, it was kind of a funny experience to talk about. First aerobatic maneuver that was ever done was actually out of a small airport, which was after Zons had closed. I didn't get my license out of Zons. It was actually out of a small airport called Bayport, which is still there, a grass field in Bayport, Long Island. And I was bored flying around just waiting for my 17th birthday. So I wanted to get checked out in a Piper Cub, a small two-seat 1940s vintage aircraft set up for aerobatics or anything, but very low-powered and tail dragger, fun to fly. And the instructor I had taken me up, and at that time it was no big deal to get checked out in a conventional gear aircraft. Unfortunately, today it's turned into a whole process. But back then it was maybe 30, 40 minutes of some landings, and he said, "You're fine. You're good to go, but we need to put an hour in or the lady who owns the flight school is going to yell at him because he checked me out too soon." So we went out over the south shore of Long Island, and he said, "I have the airplane for a second." And he dove down, and he got up to about 100 miles an hour, and he went ahead and executed a loop. And I was really excited. I thought it was one of the greatest things I've ever felt in my life. Mm-hmm. I asked him if I could try it, and he says, "No, absolutely not. It was illegal. It was something that was completely something that we weren't supposed to talk about." We went back to the airport, and I was checked out. He signed my logbook, put fuel in the airplane. It was the airplane, no starter. So he hand propped me, and I took off. And instead of doing landings, I went out to the South Shore to do a loop. Mine wasn't so successful. My first loop was exactly what he did, 100 miles per hour. And I pulled up from about 1,500 feet, and I didn't have enough G on the upside of the loop. And I got to the top, and everything went bad. Airplane ran out of speed and basically stopped, and I wound up under negative G, and about 30 or 40 years worth of dirt from the floor fell and came up and hit me in the face. I was hanging from a seatbelt. Motor shut off. Fuel was pouring out from the gas cap. Oil was coming out from the breather, and the prop stopped. So I was sitting there pretty scared, and eventually I got the nose to kind of wiggle over and finish the loop. And on the downline, the prop started to rotate just from airflow over the propeller, and eventually some black smoke came out and some coughs and funny noises. Motor got running again, and the whole airplane was covered with oil, and I was covered with dirt, and I went back to the airport shaking. I landed, instructor walked over, looked at me, looked at the airplane, just started laughing because he knew exactly what happened. But put gas back in the airplane, went back out to the South Shore, and I did a loop. So that was my start of aerobatics, and it's never stopped since.
Yeah, it's that getting over. I'm amazed that a lot of people would ended it right there and said, "Oh, that was too scary, not going back." But you realize that everything takes practice. It didn't happen overnight.
Yeah, it's exactly correct.
Yeah. Well, what I love, and I'm sure you've gained this over many years of flying as well as doing aerobatics, is many lessons you've learned in the cockpit. And what would you say is one lesson you've learned in the cockpit that we could apply to life or business?
It's a great question. I'm doing this in a quick thought through my head. I would say one of the best lessons is when things really get tough, the worst thing you could do is to panic. And that's the time when you really need to slow things down, put them in perspective, and figure out how you can use whatever knowledge you have, apply it to the current situation, and make the best out of it.
So when you get to panic mode, really slow down deeply to figure out, okay, what are my tools right now that I can use to make this happen and turn it around?
Correct. What I've found is when things seem like they're going really quickly, there's usually a problem. When things are going well, it seems like it's in slow motion. And that's really the way it should be.
That's a good thing to remember. And I find the thing is when things start to go wrong, that's when you want to go 20 million miles an hour trying to fix it. But that's exactly the wrong thing because you're just going to make more and more mistakes on top of it and probably get yourself in deeper problems.
That's absolutely true.
Yeah. So slow it down, take your time, figure out what the issues are, what skills you have at your disposal, and then take it from there. Great advice. Yeah, so David, throughout your whole life and becoming an aerobatic champion as well, what has been some of your biggest hurdles or challenges along your way, and how did you overcome them?
I think some of the biggest challenges in aerobatics is, and from what I understand, it's very similar to golf, although I'm not a golfer. You can have a day when you are the best of the best and everything is just working absolutely perfectly. And you think you have it down pat and have it under control. And then you go out there the next day and everything just went down the tubes. You can't understand why. And then you have to figure out how to deal with it. And that's really a major challenge in aerobatics. And again, like I said, from what I understand from some pretty intense golfers, very similar in that sport also. So being able to deal with the highs and the lows and the ups and the downs and learning how to basically emotionally control yourself to not get upset with the bad times and be able to put yourself back together again.
Those are some good tips there, David. And I can agree. For me, it's very interesting when I have everyday kind of struggles or stresses come up at my job and working in corporate finance for many years. And I would go, like you had mentioned, 100 miles an hour. I would start freaking out. It would seem like there were no solutions available. The minute you slowed down, it's amazing how the solutions would just pop right into view. A couple of years ago, I was out flying with a friend, and the electric systems went down. So it was a glass cockpit, so all the computers went dead. And I immediately thinking from years of being in a stressful environment in corporate said, okay, there's got to be a checklist for this to fix it. So I just pulled out the nearest checklist and started going through it. What can we do to reboot this puppy? And my friend, who was actually the pilot in command, said, I love the fact that you didn't freak out and you just pulled out a checklist to figure out how you could help me. And instead of freaking out like a passenger next to me going, oh my God, get us off the ground now. But that's exactly what you have to do in life is that, if you're going to freak out, you're just going to get nowhere.
Correct.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's awesome, David. And what would be your top number one safety tip you give to any pilots out there, regardless of age or experience?
I think that every pilot at some time early in their flying endeavor should get some sort of aerobatic training. Not necessarily to follow through with aerobatics, but at least to understand that every aircraft in the sky doesn't know the ground from outer space, and it doesn't know up from down. It just flies through the air. So it's capable of winding up in an inverted position or a knife edge position or anything else that you could possibly imagine. So since it's capable of rolling 360 degrees, pitching 360 degrees, every pilot should at one point in their career have been through all of the possible attitudes that an airplane can wind up in and be comfortable getting back to level flight where they're comfortable again. So that would be my number one suggestion.
I think that's fabulous advice. There was a guy I talked to not too long ago. He's a Navy pilot, and after exiting the Navy, he entered into the majors working for a major airline. And he said he was really confused because he thought everyone had extreme attitude training because he started all his aviation training straight in the military. So he had no idea that this extreme attitude flying and different strange, you might say, attitudes was what all pilots went through in general civilian training. And he quickly found out that was not the case. So he went about setting up a flight school that just focused on unusual attitudes and stuff like that, getting pilots trained. And his whole mission is to really let pilots know that, you don't have to become an aerobatic pilot per se, but you don't want one day to be out with your family and you end up upside down and you can't take care of the situation.
Sure, I can give you a bit of history that is really interesting in that line. I, many years ago, started giving pilots flight lessons that work for a major airline. I chose not to mention that airline's name at the current time. And they would send people out to me in a pits, and I would take them for a ride. Mm-hmm. And these are people with tremendous amount of hours and experience in airplanes. And what I would do consistently is take them up to about 2,000 feet over the beach and roll them inverted and hand them the airplane, control of the airplane. And I can tell you 100% of them, this one run had to be about 25 plus pilots, would pull on the stick from inverted at 2,000 feet to try and get back to level flight. And that's guaranteed death. It's a split S, and you take any large aircraft and try and split S from 2,000 feet. You won't even make it to a vertical downline before you hit the ground. And all they needed to do was just roll out of it. But their natural sense is telling them to search for positive G, to push themselves back in the seat to get that great feeling again of positive G. And pulling on the stick will give you that sensation temporarily until you hit the ground. And after teaching these people how to roll out of that maneuver, which is as simple as it can be, they felt like they have just conquered the whole new aspect of flying and safety.
This episode today is brought to you by Nassau Flyers, Long Island's leader in flight training and airplane rentals. Visit flynfi.com. And that reminds me, David, to my training and learning stalls for the first time. The particular aircraft I was in was, I think, a P model Cessna, but this particular Cessna seemed to break quite hard from our practice stalls and such, on and off stalls. And stall just means, guys, that the wings stop flying for a bit, and because not enough wind flow can come over the wings. And the first time it did that, I just totally let go of all the controls and was like, and then the second thing I did when he said, put your hands back on the controls, is I wanted to pull all the way back really hard and make us go into a secondary stall, because I wasn't allowing the airplane to allow wind to come over the wings so that I could recover and I could keep flying. Instead, I got so scared I pulled all the way back and caused it to go into a further deeper stall. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, David, because we will often do what feels natural, but it actually kill us in the long run.
Correct.
Or in the short run, actually.
Absolutely true.
Well, thank you. That is some awesome tips there for anyone who's interested in becoming a pilot or who is a pilot, what you can do to get yourself safe and make sure you never end up dead at the end of a flight or such. What would you say for anyone out there, Dave, who is interested in entering the aviation industry, whether it's just being a pilot, mechanic, or air traffic controller? What's the top advice you would give them for that if they just want to enter into the aviation industry, besides safety, that is?
I think that people need to sit down and do some soul searching and figure out what area they feel that they have a natural ability to excel in. You said air traffic control, and I've run into some incredible air traffic controllers that just have the ability to multitask and be concentrating on multiple things at the same time. And although I feel I'm a quite accomplished pilot, in my wildest imagination, I could not sit at the desk that they were sitting in, multitasking like they were doing. And then they would tell me that they can't imagine flying like I fly. So there is one area I'm sure that people could find in aviation where they can truly say that they have an ability to excel in and bring some really good things to the table for other people. So that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, that's a great advice there. I, many years ago, upon entering or leaving high school, decided, hey, maybe I'll enter into the world of air traffic control. It sounded like a really exciting career. For me, it just wasn't going to work. And I like that you mentioned the multitasking of it, because they do so much work that we don't give them credit for, air traffic controllers. Sometimes I find pilots they kind of garble their message to them and have little patient for them. And sometimes vice versa. Sometimes air traffic controllers can be a little bit more patient for the pilot up there working everything by themselves. But what they do down on the ground is nothing but amazing, and I'm really grateful for them. But the other part of the job, which I didn't know until I started talking to air traffic controllers, is the extreme stress. If you have 100 or more than 100 aircraft to take care of up there and make sure they don't crash into one another, because anyone's lives you have at your hand or it's going to be something you're going to have to deal with. So that's another amazing thing, that they deal with high stress and really multitask to the extreme.
Yeah, you can't go into a holding pattern and you can't just turn your computer off and come back to it 10 minutes later. It's nonstop. And the one airplane lands, there's another one right behind him. So they have an extremely difficult and then stressful job doing it. And most of them are incredible at it. Amazing job.
Yeah, but they really put them through the ringer. I think you're in how long is it? I think for at least 3 years, you're on probational period where they're really having supervisors check out your work, making sure you really know what you're doing. And they always have a supervisor looking at new folks in the industry to make sure they're doing it correctly and whatever. So you're not just let out on the leash once you've been trained. It's really highly monitored and safety oriented.
Yeah, if you had a stressful day at home or a stressful day in your own personal life, you come to work, you need to put all that on the side and have a clear head for what you're about to take care of in the work end of it.
Yeah. And once I talked to a number of air traffic controllers, I began to see that this indeed would not be the career for me. But it's good that you mentioned that, to really get a handle on each of the different areas of aviation and see which one best meets your personality and your skill set.
Sure.
So, Dave, who has been some of your greatest role models along your journey?
One name pops into mind. I don't think that there was a better pilot that I know of in my lifetime. Leo Laudenslager. So he was the man.
And what about him inspired you in particular?
He had not only an incredible ability to fly, but he was also an aerodynamic engineer, built his own airplane. He designed his own airplane. He basically created the modern day monoplane in aerobatics, which although to a lot of people, they look at it, it looks almost like a toy. In reality, it's probably structurally and aerodynamically the most complex airplane flying right now. It's like a Formula One racer for the sky. And people who know about driving in cars know that F1 is really the baseline for technology in all automobiles. And everything that comes out in new cars that we drive, as far as handling and performance, was designed and created because of F1. The same thing with flying and now aerobatics. So his ability to create this monoplane, Leo's ability to create this monoplane, was really what started the whole modern evolution of aerobatics and allows people to get airplanes to tumble and somersault and backflip and all the things that people get to see in air shows, which in some minds, it's just a crazy pilot out there. But in reality, the complexity of the aerodynamics through some of those maneuvers is something that even a computer today, as great as they are, can't duplicate in simulation mode. So that my hat's off to him for that. He won the world championship in 1980 in aerobatics. He won the United States national championship 7 times. Wow. Spectacular. So he was my role model.
That is amazing. And I'm just totally blown away. I heard you doing a little talk on gyroscopic maneuvers and such. I was like, what? And I was like, planes can do that? Because I know what a gyroscope is, but I was like, how does that apply to flying? And when you were talking about how the prop can be used as a gyroscope and it spins through the air, I was like, whoa, that is just amazing. And that's rather new to aerobatics, or is it not?
First gyroscopic maneuvers that I'm aware of were from the Czechoslovakians in the mid-1980s in their first monoplanes. And the maneuver that everyone, today we just refer to them as tumbles, but the name for that maneuver was devised by Czechoslovakia, and it's called Lumkovac, and it basically means out of control. The first time anyone saw an airplane tumble, they thought it was out of control. And initially, they were out of control. And today, we've gotten to the point where we can tumble an airplane on almost any axis, break out of it at any point it in any direction, and start all over again.
And that's one thing I don't think a lot of people understand about aerobatics, because I've seen some YouTube videos of kids who are just going out there, have gotten their license, and they're thinking, I'm going to go and do some aerobatics like I saw on YouTube. And this is extreme sport that takes a lot of technique and a lot of practice. I mean, I've heard Patty Wagstaff say that she goes out for a total of 6 hours a day, 2 hours, 2 hours, and 2 hours, and is beating up her entire body to get this perfect. So it's not like, poof, go out there, do it, and you can do any of these maneuvers. This takes a lot of practice and training.
Thousands and thousands and thousands of flights.
Yeah.
To reach unlimited today, really to get to the top, it's 5 or 6 days a week, 3 to 4 flights a day, 9 to 10 months per year, nonstop. And you really don't go 24 hours ever without flying.
So I just want to make that clear to anyone who thinks they can just go out there and do what they see Dave do on some of these videos. He takes a lot of training and practice for many, many years. He's been doing this. And for the monoplane you mentioned, would the Edge plane be one of the ones you're talking about, top of the line aerobatic planes today?
Absolutely. There are basically 3 to 4 airplanes that are capable of unlimited today. The market's changing tremendously, but there's a company called Extra in Germany that had built airplanes for a long time, and there's always a race to have the best airplane. They're one. Second one, which has been phenomenal, forefront, built in the United States in Guthrie, Oklahoma, is Zifco, who builds the Edge. And the Russians have an airplane which really is not produced anymore. There's still quite a few around, which was an incredible airplane, and that's called the Sukhoi. Those are the 3 that are currently available. The French have an airplane. I don't believe it's produced anymore. Mudry Aviation called a CAP 3-2. And then the last one, it was a U.S. company, but they're not producing them anymore. So I'll leave that out. But really, those 4 are the only potential planes for competing in unlimited. And like I said, only 2 of them are currently still in production that I know of.
Oh, awesome. Well, Dave, what would you say as of this moment has been your greatest achievement or accomplishment in your life?
Greatest accomplishment? You talking about flying?
Oh, anything. It can be anything. It doesn't have to be flying.
Oh, 5 children.
Ah.
I would say 5 kids would be the number one accomplishment.
God bless them. Are any of them following in your footsteps?
2 of them are flying. Just got his license when he was 17. The other one is still 16. And he soloed. Hopefully he'll have his license by the time he's 17. The one underneath him is also flying. He's only 14 right now. He's a great pilot. The other 2 I'm not sure about. They're still pretty young.
Yeah. So what's on the horizon for your business in the next year or so?
Business, I have a water bottle that I'm trying to bring to market that will basically hopefully eliminate the majority of the disposable water bottles that are out there right now. Wasted plastic and landfill consumption that's going on. It's a great system where a bottle, you plug it in and it kind of fills itself up with chilled and filtered water that we find to be better than almost any bottled water you can buy. And it's called Water Filler, and working hard on bringing that to market and trying to change the whole system of how people drink water.
Oh, I love that. And we must have you on again when that's up and rolling and to help you get out the message on that. Because one guy we had on last month, David Cagel, is all about green architecture and how to live more green and work it into your life, not only just electric cars and such, but really to go much deeper and getting away from carbon usage and such. So, yeah, we'd love to have you on talking about that. And if anyone would like to find out more about your services, either as a pilot or any of the other exciting things you have going on, how might they make contact with you?
I have a website set up, and it's windmiller.com, windmiller.com. There should be a link to the water filler bottle on that also. Definitely contact for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, David, for coming on today and sharing your amazing expertise and your wisdom and coming on Savvy Central Radio. Thank you so much.
Christina, with pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Savvy Business Radio, home to over 500,000 listeners per month, and runs in syndication on 8 AM/FM stations nationwide, including iHeartRadio and 6 podcasting platforms. To find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or to become a guest and find out how we can help you get your message out in a bigger way, call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.
Welcome to the Racing to Success Minute with Nadine Lajoie. Do you feel you accomplish nothing? It's maybe because you are too perfectionist. For me, it's better to be excellent than being a perfectionist. Why? Because the top 20% to become perfectionist instead of being excellent, that little extra 20%, you will probably spend 80% of your time trying to reach perfection. On the other way, if you are aiming for excellence every time, about 80%, you will achieve more success, you will outgrow your competition, and you will be able to realize so many more things. That's what I did, and I encourage you to be excellent and reach your full potential with Nadine at nadineracing.com.